The morning sun cast long shadows across the grand corridors of Kensington Palace as Kate Middleton walked slowly toward the private drawing room. Her footsteps echoed softly on the polished marble floors, each step feeling heavier than the last. She had requested this meeting with William 3 days ago, but now that the moment had arrived, her heart was pounding with uncertainty. William stood by the tall windows overlooking the palace gardens, his shoulders tense beneath his navy blazer. He had sensed something was troubling Kate for weeks now. She had been quieter than usual, often lost in thought during family dinners, and he had caught her staring into the distance with tears in her eyes on more than one occasion. "You wanted to speak with me," William said gently, turning to face his wife. His voice carried the warmth that had always made Kate feel safe, but today it only made what she had to say more difficult. Kate took a deep breath and smoothed her cream-colored dress with trembling hands. "William, I need to tell you something that I've been struggling with for months now, something that will change everything between us." The concern in William's blue eyes deepened as he moved closer to her. "Whatever it is, we can work through it together. We always have." But Kate shook her head slowly, her brown eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Not this time. This is about me, about who I am, and about a truth I can no longer hide from myself or from you." She moved to the antique sofa and sat down carefully, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. William remained standing, watching her with growing worry. The silence stretched between them until Kate finally found the courage to speak. "I've been seeing someone," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not in the way you might think. I've been speaking with a therapist trying to understand feelings that have confused me for years." William's expression shifted from concern to confusion. "Kate, if you needed help, you could have told me. We could have found someone together." "You don't understand," Kate continued, her voice growing stronger despite the tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. "The therapy helped me realize something about myself that I've been denying for far too long. William, I'm in love with someone else. Have been for months now." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. William's face went pale, and he sank into the chair opposite her as if his legs could no longer support him. "Who?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Kate wiped her eyes with a tissue, struggling to maintain her composure. "Her name is Sarah. She's a photographer I met during one of my charity events. We started as friends, but over time, our connection grew into something deeper, something I never expected to feel." "Her?" William repeated, his voice barely audible. Kate nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "I never planned for this to happen. I thought I knew myself completely, thought our life together was exactly what I wanted, but being with Sarah has shown me a side of myself I never knew existed. I feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years." William stood up abruptly and began pacing the room, running his hands through his hair. "How long has this been going on? How long have you been living a lie with me and the children?" "It's not a lie," Kate said firmly, standing to face him. "My love for you and the children is real. It always has been. But I've discovered that love can exist in different forms, and denying this part of myself is destroying me from the inside." "So what are you saying?" William asked, stopping his pacing to look directly at her. "Are you asking for a divorce? Are you planning to abandon our family?" Kate's heart broke at the pain in his voice. "I don't want to abandon anyone. The children will always be my priority, and you will always be important to me. But I can't continue living a life that feels incomplete. Sarah and I have talked about this extensively, and we want to build a life together." William laughed bitterly. "You've talked about this extensively. How considerate of you to include me in these important decisions about my own life." "That's not fair," Kate replied, her own voice rising. "Do you think this has been easy for me? Do you think I wanted to hurt you or disrupt our family? I've been tormented by this for months, trying to find a way to honor both my feelings and my responsibilities." "And what conclusion did you reach?" William asked, sarcastically. "That your personal happiness is more important than the stability of our children's lives?" Kate's eyes flashed with anger. "Don't you dare question my dedication to our children. Everything I do is for them, including this conversation. They deserve to have a mother who is authentic and happy, not one who is slowly dying inside from pretending to be someone she's not." William slumped back into his chair, the fight going out of him as quickly as it had appeared. "I don't understand any of this, Kate. I thought we were happy. I thought our marriage was strong. We were content," Kate said softly, sitting back down across from him. "But contentment and true happiness are different things. You deserve someone who can love you completely and without reservation. Someone whose heart isn't divided." "And you think Sarah can give you that?" William asked, his voice filled with hurt rather than anger now. Kate's face softened as she thought of the woman who had captured her heart. "She already has. When I'm with her, I feel like I'm finally myself. Not the Duchess, not the perfect royal wife, just Kate. She sees me for who I really am and loves all of it." William was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red with tears he was trying hard not to shed. "What happens now? What do we tell the children? What do we tell the world?" "We tell them the truth," Kate said gently, "that sometimes people grow and change, and that love takes many forms. That their parents will always love them, even if we can't love each other in the way we once did." "The press will have a field day," William said wearily. "The monarchy will face another scandal." Kate reached across the space between them and touched his hand briefly. "We'll face it together, as co-parents, if not as spouses. We'll protect the children from as much of it as possible. And we'll show them that it's possible to handle difficult situations with grace and dignity." William pulled his hand away, not ready for her comfort. "I need time to process this, Kate. I can't just switch from thinking we're a happy family to planning our separation in one conversation." "Of course," Kate agreed. "Take all the time you need. But William, please know that this doesn't erase everything we've built together. Our children, our shared experiences, the love we had. None of that was false. It feels false now," William admitted quietly. "Everything feels like a lie." Kate stood to leave, pausing at the door to look back at her husband one more time. "I never meant to hurt you, William. I hope someday you can forgive me for not understanding myself sooner." As the door closed behind her, William remained alone in the drawing room, staring out at the gardens where his children often played. The future he had envisioned for his family had just crumbled before his eyes, and he had no idea how to begin picking up the pieces. Down the hall, Kate walked quickly to her private quarters, her composed facade finally cracking. The conversation had been even more difficult than she had anticipated, but there was also a sense of relief that the truth was finally out in the open. She pulled out her phone and sent a simple text message to Sarah. "It's done. He knows." The response came quickly. "How are you holding up? I'm here whenever you need me." Kate smiled through her tears. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe freely. The path ahead would be challenging, but at least now she was walking it as her authentic self. Meanwhile, in another wing of the palace, Camilla was enjoying her afternoon tea when her personal secretary knocked on the door with an urgent expression. "Your Majesty, I think there's something you should know about Prince William and the Duchess of Cambridge." Camilla set down her teacup with interest. Palace gossip was one of her guilty pleasures, and something in her secretary's tone suggested this was particularly juicy information. "Do tell," she said, settling back in her chair with anticipation. As the secretary whispered the details she had overheard from the palace staff, Camilla's eyebrows rose higher and higher. By the time the story was complete, she was struggling to contain her excitement. This development would certainly shake things up in the royal family, and Camilla couldn't help but feel a secret satisfaction that the seemingly perfect couple wasn't so perfect after all. "How very interesting," Camilla murmured to herself after her secretary had left. She had always felt somewhat overshadowed by Kate's popularity and seemingly effortless grace. Perhaps this scandal would level the playing field in ways Camilla had never dared to hope for. The weeks following Kate's revelation passed in a blur of tense conversations, lawyers' meetings, and carefully orchestrated public appearances. The royal couple had agreed to maintain a united front until they could figure out the best way to handle their separation publicly, but the strain was beginning to show. William found himself unable to sleep most nights, wandering the halls of their shared residence like a ghost. Every family photo seemed to mock him, every shared memory now tainted with questions about Kate's true feelings. He had thrown himself into his royal duties with renewed intensity, using work as a shield against the pain that threatened to overwhelm him whenever he stopped moving. Kate, meanwhile, was struggling with her own demons. The relief she had felt after confessing to William had been short-lived, quickly replaced by guilt over the pain she was causing and anxiety about the future. Her relationship with Sarah had become strained as well, as the weight of public scrutiny began to affect both of them. "We need to talk," Sarah said during one of their secret meetings in a private flat Kate had rented under an assumed name. "This hiding is becoming impossible. The photographers are getting closer to discovering us, and I can't keep living in the shadows." Kate paced nervously around the small living room, her hands shaking slightly as she spoke. I know. But we have to be careful. If this comes out before William and I can control the narrative, it will be chaos. The children will be caught in the middle of a media storm." Sarah, a tall woman with striking green eyes and auburn hair, watched Kate with growing concern. "The children are already caught in the middle, Kate. They can sense the tension between you and William. George asked me yesterday why Daddy looks so sad all the time." "He talked to you?" Kate asked, surprised. She had been trying to keep Sarah's interactions with the children to a minimum until everything was settled. "He cornered me in the garden while you were on that phone call with your lawyer. He's not stupid, Kate." "None of them are. They know something is wrong." Kate sank onto the sofa, her composure finally cracking. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore, Sarah. I thought I was being brave by telling the truth, but now I feel like I'm destroying everything I touch." Sarah moved to sit beside her, taking Kate's hands in hers. "You're not destroying anything. You're being honest about who you are, and that takes incredible courage. But we can't keep living in this limbo. Either we're together and we face the consequences, or we end this now before it tears your family apart completely." "Don't say that," Kate whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You're the only thing that makes sense in my life right now. Without you, I'd be completely lost." "Then we need to make a decision," Sarah said firmly. "I love you, Kate, but I won't be the other woman hiding in the shadows forever. I want a real life with you, not stolen moments in secret apartments." Their conversation was interrupted by Kate's phone buzzing with an urgent message from her private secretary. "William wants to see you immediately," she read aloud. "Something about Camilla." Kate's blood ran cold. What could Camilla have to do with any of this? An hour later, Kate found herself once again in the private drawing room at Kensington Palace, but this time William was not alone. His father, King Charles, sat in one of the wing chairs, his face grave. William stood by the fireplace, his expression harder than Kate had ever seen it. "Sit down, Kate," Charles said formally. "We need to discuss a very serious situation." Kate remained standing, her instincts telling her she was about to be ambushed. What situation would that be? William pulled out his phone and showed her a series of photographs. Kate's heart stopped as she saw herself and Sarah embracing outside the secret apartment, kissing in Sarah's car, holding hands as they walked through a private park. "Where did you get these?" Kate asked, her voice barely audible. "Camilla brought them to my father this morning," William said, his voice cold and controlled. "Apparently she's been having you followed for weeks." Kate's legs gave out, and she sank into the nearest chair. "Having me followed? Why would she do that?" Charles leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "That's exactly what I'd like to know." Camilla claimed she was concerned about the family's reputation and wanted to understand what was causing the tension between you and William. She says she hired a private investigator to gather information. "More likely she was looking for ammunition to use against me," Kate said bitterly. "She's never liked me, never thought I was good enough for William." "Regardless of her motivations," Charles continued, "the fact remains that these photographs exist. And according to Camilla, she's not the only one who has copies." William's composure finally cracked. "How could you be so careless, Kate? We agreed to handle this privately, to protect the children, and you've been parading around London with your girlfriend like some kind of teenager." "We were careful," Kate protested. "We chose quiet places, used back entrances." "Clearly not careful enough," Charles interrupted. "The investigator Camilla hired was able to document your relationship extensively. If he could do it, so could the paparazzi." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Kate realized that their carefully laid plans for a controlled announcement were now meaningless. The story would break whether they were ready or not. "What does Camilla want?" Kate asked quietly. Charles and William exchanged a look that made Kate's stomach churn. "She's presented us with what she calls a solution," Charles said slowly. "She suggests that you quietly withdraw from public life, citing health reasons. The separation could be handled discreetly, with minimal impact on the monarchy." "And in exchange?" Kate asked, though she already suspected she knew the answer. "She keeps the photographs private," William said. "No one else ever sees them, and your relationship with Sarah remains a secret." Kate stood up abruptly, anger replacing her shock. "So I'm supposed to live a lie forever? Hide who I am to protect the precious monarchy?" "You're supposed to think about your children," William snapped. "Think about what will happen to them when every tabloid in the world publishes those photos. Think about the questions they'll face at school, the whispers they'll endure." "I am thinking about them," Kate replied fiercely. "I'm thinking about what kind of example I want to set for them. Do I want to teach them to hide who they are to please other people, or do I want to show them that authenticity and truth matter more than public opinion?" Charles stood as well, his royal authority filling the room. "Catherine, I understand this is difficult for you, but you must consider the bigger picture. The monarchy has survived for centuries because we put duty before personal desire. Your personal happiness cannot come at the expense of the institution. The institution that's supposed to serve the people, not the other way around," Kate shot back. "What good is a monarchy that's built on lies and cover-ups?" "It's built on stability and tradition," Charles replied firmly. "Things that matter more than individual feelings." Kate looked between the two men, seeing nothing but disappointment and manipulation in their faces. "And if I refuse Camilla's generous offer?" "Then you face the consequences of your choices," William said quietly. "The photographs will become public, Sarah will be dragged through the media circus, and our children will pay the price for your selfishness." The words hit Kate like physical blows. She could see the pain behind William's anger, could understand his fear for their children, but she also recognized the trap that was closing around her. "I need time to think," she said finally. "You have 24 hours, Charles said. "Camilla has graciously agreed to wait that long before making her decision about the photographs." As Kate walked to the door, William called out to her one last time. "Kate, please, think about what you're risking. Think about what we'll all lose." She paused without turning around. "I am thinking about it, William. I'm thinking about all of it. That evening, Kate found herself once again at the secret apartment, but this time Sarah was waiting with packed bags and a resigned expression. "I heard what happened," Sarah said quietly. "Palace staff talk, and the news travels fast." "We can fight this," Kate said desperately. "We can go public ourselves, control the narrative." Sarah shook her head sadly. "No, we can't. This isn't just about us anymore, Kate. Your children are involved, the monarchy is involved. There are forces at play here that are bigger than our love story." "So you're just giving up?" Kate asked, her voice breaking. "I'm being realistic," Sarah replied, moving to take Kate's hands one last time. "I love you more than I've ever loved anyone, but I won't be the reason your children suffer. I won't be the scandal that destroys your family." "What are you saying?" Sarah picked up her bags and moved toward the door. "I'm saying goodbye, Kate. I'm leaving London tonight, and I won't be coming back." "You need to go back to your family and find a way to make this work." "Sarah, please don't do this," Kate begged, following her to the door. "We can find another way." "There is no other way," Sarah said firmly, tears streaming down her face. "Sometimes loving someone means letting them go. This is one of those times." As Sarah walked out of the apartment and out of her life, Kate collapsed against the door, sobbing uncontrollably. In the space of one day, she had lost both her future and her past, leaving her trapped in a present that felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Back at the palace, Camilla sat in her private sitting room, a satisfied smile playing at her lips as she sipped her evening sherry. The plan had worked perfectly. Kate would have no choice but to accept her terms, and the threat to the monarchy's stability would be neutralized. But more than that, Camilla finally had the upper hand over the daughter-in-law who had always seemed so untouchable, so beloved by the public. Tonight, Kate was learning what it truly meant to be a member of the royal family, where duty always came before desire, and where those who forgot that lesson paid dearly for their mistake. The game was almost over, and Camilla was confident she had already won. Dawn broke gray and cold over London as Kate stood at her bedroom window, watching the early morning joggers in the park below. She hadn't slept at all, her mind churning over the impossible decision she faced. In just a few hours, Camilla's deadline would expire, and she would have to choose between her authentic self and her children's well-being. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah sent from the airport. "Whatever you decide, know that loving you has been the greatest privilege of my life. Be strong, my darling." The message broke what was left of Kate's composure, and she slumped to the floor, sobbing quietly so as not to wake the children. Everything she had worked for, everything she had discovered about herself, was slipping away like sand through her fingers. A soft knock at her door interrupted her tears. "Mummy?" came George's voice from the hallway. "Are you okay? I heard crying." Kate quickly wiped her eyes and opened the door to find her eldest son standing there in his pajamas, his face creased with worry. Behind him stood Charlotte and Louis, both looking equally concerned. "We couldn't sleep either," Charlotte said quietly. "Something's wrong." "Isn't it?" Kate knelt down to their level, gathering all three children in her arms. Looking at their innocent faces, she realized that the choice before her wasn't really a choice at all. These three precious souls were her greatest responsibility, her deepest love, and their welfare had to come before everything else. "Things between Daddy and me are complicated right now," she said carefully. "But I want you to know that both of us love you more than anything in the world, and that will never change." "Are you getting divorced?" George asked bluntly, his precocious intelligence cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Kate took a deep breath. "We're working through some difficult things, sweetheart. But whatever happens, you'll always have both of us, and you'll always be safe and loved." Louis, the youngest, climbed into her lap. "Will you still be our mummy?" "Forever and always," Kate whispered, holding him tight. Nothing could ever change that. After she had tucked the children back into bed with promises that everything would work out, Kate made her decision. She called William and asked him to meet her in the garden, where they had spent so many happy hours as a family. William arrived looking as haggard as she felt. Dark circles under his eyes, evidence that he had slept no better than she had. They sat on the bench beneath the old oak tree where they had once carved their initials, the morning mist swirling around them like ghosts of happier times. "I've made my decision," Kate said quietly, staring at her hands rather than meeting his eyes. "And," William prompted, his voice carefully neutral. "I'll accept Camilla's terms," she said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "I'll withdraw from public life, will proceed with a quiet separation, and I'll end my relationship with Sarah permanently." William's shoulders sagged with relief, but his expression remained guarded. "What changed your mind?" Kate looked up at the bedroom windows where their children slept peacefully, unaware of the storm swirling around them. "I realized that my personal happiness isn't worth their suffering. They didn't ask to be born into this life, but they deserve to live it without being destroyed by their mother's choices." "Kate," William began, his voice softer than it had been in weeks. "No," she interrupted. "Let me finish. I'm doing this for the children, not for you or for the monarchy or for Camilla. But I need you to understand that this sacrifice comes with conditions of my own." William straightened, sensing that Kate wasn't going to simply capitulate without terms of her own. "First, you will never remarry while I'm alive unless I give my blessing," Kate said firmly. "These children will not be subjected to a parade of stepmothers while they're still processing our separation." "That seems reasonable," William agreed cautiously. "Second, I maintain equal custody and decision-making power regarding the children's upbringing, education, and futures. My withdrawal from public life doesn't mean I'm withdrawing from motherhood." "Of course." "And third," Kate continued, her voice growing stronger, "if you ever treat me the way you have these past few weeks again, with contempt, manipulation, or cruelty, our agreement is void. I may be sacrificing my happiness, but I won't sacrifice my dignity." William had the grace to look ashamed. "You're right. I let my pain turn me into someone I don't recognize. I'm sorry for that." Kate nodded, accepting his apology but not forgetting the hurt. "There's something else you need to understand, William. I'm not doing this because I've changed my mind about who I am or what I feel. I still love Sarah, and I always will. I'm simply choosing to prioritize our children's welfare over my own desires." "I understand," William said quietly. "And for what it's worth, I do admire your courage in being honest about who you are, even if I can't understand it." They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun rise fully over the palace grounds. Finally, Kate stood to leave. "I'll call Camilla and tell her I accept her terms," she said. "Then I suppose we should start planning how to announce this to the public." "Kate, wait!" William called as she started walking away. "I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know that despite everything that's happened, I don't regret our marriage. We had good years, and we created 3 beautiful children together. That has to count for something." Kate paused and turned back to him, a sad smile on her face. "It counts for everything, William. It just wasn't enough to build a lifetime on." Later that morning, Kate found herself once again in Camilla's opulent sitting room, but this time the dynamic was completely different. Camilla sat behind her antique writing desk like a queen holding court, while Kate occupied the uncomfortable chair positioned deliberately lower than Camilla's own. "How sensible of you to see reason," Camilla said, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. "I must say, I was concerned you might let your emotions override your judgment." "My emotions were never the problem," Kate replied evenly. "My priorities simply needed clarification." Camilla raised an eyebrow at Kate's composed tone, having expected more broken submission. Well, regardless, I'm pleased we can resolve this matter quietly. The photographer's images will be destroyed and this unfortunate chapter can be closed permanently. Not quite permanently, Kate said, pulling out her own phone. You see, while you were having me followed, I was doing some investigating of my own. Camilla's smile faltered slightly. I'm not sure what you mean. Kate scrolled through her phone until she found what she was looking for, then turned the screen toward Camilla. The older woman's face went pale as she saw photographs of herself entering a private club known for high-stakes gambling, meeting with questionable individuals, and engaging in activities that would certainly raise eyebrows if they became public. It seems you have your own secrets, Camilla, Kate said calmly. Secret gambling debts, private loans from foreign nationals, meetings with arms dealers who have contributed significantly to your favorite charities. Quite a collection of compromising material. Where did you get those? Camilla demanded, her composure cracking. I have my sources, Kate replied smoothly. Just as you have yours. The difference is, I'm not interested in blackmail or manipulation. I'm simply ensuring mutual assured destruction should you ever decide to renege on our agreement. Camilla's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her teacup, trying to regain her composure. What do you want? Exactly what we've already agreed upon, Kate said. I withdraw from public life, maintain a quiet separation from William, and keep my personal relationships private. But in exchange, you treat me with the respect due to the mother of the future king's children. No more games, no more schemes, no more attempts to humiliate or control me. And if I refuse? Kate stood to leave, her message delivered. Then we both learn what it's like to have our private lives splashed across every tabloid in Europe. I'm willing to make that sacrifice if necessary. The question is, are you? As Kate walked toward the door, Camilla called out desperately, You can't do this to me, I'm the queen. Kate paused and looked back with something that might have been pity. You're a woman who made the same choice I'm making now. You sacrificed love for duty. The difference is, you've spent years making others pay for your sacrifice. That ends today. The door closed behind Kate with a soft click, leaving Camilla alone with her shattered sense of superiority. For the first time in years, she had been outmaneuvered, and by someone she had consistently underestimated. That evening, the palace released a carefully worded statement announcing that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge had decided to separate amicably due to irreconcilable differences. The Duchess would be withdrawing from most public engagements to focus on her children and private charitable work. The statement emphasized their continued commitment to co-parenting and their respect for each other. The media response was predictably intense, but without salacious details or scandal, the story eventually died down to speculation and sympathy for the couple and their children. Kate moved to a private residence in the countryside, far from London's prying eyes. She threw herself into being the best mother she could be, finding joy in school runs, homework help, and quiet family dinners. The children adapted better than expected, spending equal time with both parents and slowly adjusting to their new normal. On quiet evenings, Kate would sometimes allow herself to think about Sarah, wondering where she was and whether she had found happiness. The love between them remained real and precious in Kate's memory, even if it could never be lived openly. William, meanwhile, struggled more with the separation than he had expected. He found himself missing Kate's counsel, her laughter, and even their arguments. He threw himself into his royal duties, but discovered that duty without companionship felt hollow. Months later, at George's birthday party, William and Kate found themselves working together to organize games for the children. For a moment, watching their son's delighted laughter, they almost felt like a family again. "Do you ever regret it?" William asked quietly as they watched the children play. Kate considered the question seriously before answering. "I regret the pain we all went through. I regret that honesty came at such a high cost, but I don't regret discovering who I really am, even if I can't live that truth openly. And I regret that I couldn't be enough for you, William admitted. But I'm grateful that you chose the children's welfare over everything else. They stood in comfortable silence, two people who had loved each other deeply, but in the wrong way, now finding peace in their shared commitment to the family they had created together. Across the garden, Camilla watched the scene with carefully hidden frustration. She had won the battle, but somehow felt like she had lost the war. Kate's quiet dignity and grace in defeat had only enhanced her public image, while Camilla's own reputation remained forever tainted by whispers and speculation. As the sun set over the birthday celebration, Kate felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. She had made the hardest choice of her life, sacrificing her personal happiness for her children's well-being. It was a choice that had shattered her heart, but left her soul intact. She might never again experience the joy she had found with Sarah, but she had something perhaps even more valuable: the knowledge that when faced with an impossible decision, she had chosen love over self-interest, sacrifice over scandal, and her children's future over her own desires. In the end, that choice had revealed more about her character than any amount of authentic self-expression could have done. She was, above all else, a mother who would move mountains to protect her children, even if it meant burying her own heart beneath them.